So, the author we have with us today is, we don't really have to introduce her, because obviously you all know who she is. And we have all followed her books all these years. So I'm actually going to skip right through the interview after we all welcome Robin Hobb to the science fiction bookstore. Thank you. So, I grew up reading fantasy, and one of the books that introduced me to this genre was your Assassin's Apprentice, the Farseer trilogy. And I'm wondering if, did the story grow as you wrote it, or did you always have this clear picture in your head about how you wanted it?
I think the answer to that would be that the story begins with the character, of course, with Fitz. Fitz is the central character, and he starts telling his story. So for Assassin's Apprentice, I had a very clear idea of where the story would begin and where the story would end. I did not, when I began writing it, I did not know how important the character, the fool, would be. But I knew that basically what the arc of the story would be. And even at the end of Assassin's Quest, I had a good idea of where the characters would go in their lives after that. I didn't expect to write anything more about Fitz at that point. I thought I had left him in a good place, and I knew that later on there would be things happening in his life, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to go on writing about him because there would be such a gap in time. So for me, the story fills in around the character, and I discover the details as I go, but I usually do know the beginning, the key plot points I have to hit, and the end.
So I have a similar question to that. In your new book, The Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince, you kind of introduce us to the history of the wit. Did you know why the wit was so resented from the beginning, or did you just recently find out?
Well, this is actually a story that I've carried around with me for approximately 10 years, and I've written in probably 3 to 4 different ways with 3 to 4 different narrators, until finally finding a narrator who could actually tell the key points of the story as a witness or as somebody who has a very reliable secondary source to draw on. So I would have known this, I've known all about this tale and the details for about 10 years. Prior to that, I did know that the piebald prince had been vilified, that he was not as terrible a character as most of the people in Buckwood believed him to be during Fitz's day. And I did know there was a substantially larger story there. So it's in the details. And the details are when you can sit down and say, I want to tell this now, so I need to find a narrator who will tell me the story and tell me exactly what happened.
One of the things I find very remarkable about your books is one of your characters, as you already mentioned, the Fool. And the Fool's gender is kind of ambiguous, and you yourself write under a pseudonym, which is not really connected to a certain sex, your name.
It's an androgynous name, yes.
Yeah. And to that, to me it implies that sex doesn't really, well, the gender doesn't really matter, not to what you do. And did you make this point through the use of the Fool and your pseudonym, or was it just a coincidence?
Well, let's see. I never sat down and said, I'm going to write a book that proves that gender doesn't matter, or take a name that is genderless to make this point. Those things happen for different reasons. The Fool as a character, that's how he stepped onto the stage, and that's how he has remained. When I first conceived of him, it was a character that it didn't really matter. And for a good part of the first book, it never occurred to me to doubt or to wonder until Starling brought it up. So that's an example of the character unfolding. As far as the byline that I took, when I began to write in a different slice of the fantasy genre than what I had previously written in, when I began to write what a lot of us refer to as epic fantasy, my agent and I decided that we would set it apart from the other books I had written by putting a different name on it. And that's not at all uncommon in fantasy or in any of the genres, where many writers, their stories span different genres. They may write westerns under one name and romances under another, and Gothic novels under a third. So taking a different name was not that big of an issue. With Robin Hobb, I wanted a name that had a lot of nice nuances. And Robin, of course, is Robin Goodfellow, which is Puck, or it's Robin Hood. It's the first Robin of Spring. And Hobb was a nice, strong name that would fit very well on a cover in big letters and be at about eye level on the shelves in a bookstore. I'll have to check it before I go. But, so it wasn't really to make a point about genre. I deliberately did choose an androgynous name because in fantasy we're always working to lower the threshold of disbelief. We try to be very accurate about the things that are of this world, so that if I tell you very accurately about a horse, when I start writing about a dragon, you will believe that I know what I'm talking about. And so choosing an androgynous first name lowered the threshold of a book that was going to be written in the first-person male viewpoint.
Great answer. I'm actually going back to the Fool, and I'm wondering if you realized while you were writing the books that many readers, myself included, unfortunately, would regard the Fool as a man, even though it's never really clearly stated what gender he or she belongs to.
Well, I think how you see the Fool, a lot of that depends on who you are personally. Certainly for the first book, it never, in the writing of it, it never occurred to me to wonder. He's a very fluid character. He's a character that, while I know a great deal more about him than I've been able to share with the reader, because it's not where you want to stop the book and put in 7 paragraphs about the Fool, there is still a lot about him that I don't know. So he remains that character, and I think if I were to suddenly say I'm going to write his childhood from his point of view, he would lose a lot of his mystery and charm. And I would have disemboweled the character, essentially.
You have just recently announced that you're going to do another book series with the Fitz and the Fool. And I'm wondering if you felt pressured to continue the story of the two, pressured by fans, maybe, that wants you to continue the story? Or was there something you thought was missing from the story?
I think from the time that I ended with Fool's Fate, I knew there was another piece of the story, and very astute readers have called me on it several times. I'll get an email that says, what about those 4 or 5 lines at the end of Fool's Fate where you say that how the minstrel pauses before you sweep into the final refrain? And that, of course, was the signal there will be more to come. I did pause for a number of years. Coming back to it, I would say if I felt pressured, I don't think I would have written. I don't think anybody can write to. Well, you can. I just don't think it's very good when somebody dictates. Now you will write a story about this with X, Y, Z. I guess like television writers do have to do that all the time, where they have a Bible that says what the characters can and cannot do, and where the sequence of this season is supposed to go. I don't think I could do that. I really don't.
That's good, I hope. I'm actually changing subject to the Soldier Sun trilogy. And that one is a completely different world. How did it feel to move out of the realms of the Elderling universe? Was it exciting or strange?
Well, I think I was actually coming back to when I was writing as Megan Lindholm, I was writing all over the fantasy world, and all of in the full arc of the genre. I didn't hesitate to write anywhere, whether verging on horror or going back to historical romance. I don't think as writers that we limit ourselves. So stepping into that world, it was a world I had known about for some time. I've been waiting to write that story. I had all sorts of ideas. It was just as exciting as stepping into any new book.
Yeah. Interesting. I have only one more question, and then we're gonna ask the crowd if they have any more questions. And the question I have is also about settings and sceneries. If you have a scenery that you would like to include in a new book, what would it be? Something you haven't explored already.
Well, it's strange that you say that, because on the train here from Uppsala to Stockholm, I was looking out at the forest with the very large rounded off rocks, which I think is a sign of a glacier passing through, and how all of your trees are growing up between all these rocks. And I've never walked in a forest like that. I don't know, if I could stop the train and get off for half an hour, I would get out and explore that, and how it looks like it would be very hard going. I don't think you could take a horse through there very easily, for example.
Yeah.
So that to me was a fascinating sort of forest floor that I'd never seen before.
So maybe it will be a fantasy book about Sweden's forests.
You never know.
We can hope. Does anyone have a question? You can raise your hands, and we're going to try to get a microphone to you. Otherwise, we will move on. Question? No? You're all just eager to talk to her. Yes, the Nobel Prize.
Yes, I've read about it online.
I did read about it online. I put up a blog post about the author is always the last to know. I was very, very excited to blog about it and put it on Facebook.
We were very happy that you were excited. So we actually prepared a diploma for you, which is upside down.
Very appropriate.
But we will now give you the Nobel Prize for fantastic writing, and I'm just going to read.
He looks so distinguished.
Yeah, he's very, very nice. So you can write or read about why you got the prize. Everyone who is here knows why you got the prize. So maybe it's the persons online that needs to know. But it's for your immense contribution to the fantastic genre, ranging from the origins of urban fantasy to where the fantastic subverts to the real, to the broad wingspan of dragon fantasy, and even from this epic heights, creating complex living characters and following them through both the tragic and the magical. So I would like to give this prize to you.
I'm very pleased to receive this. This will go on my office wall.
And in this science fiction bookstore bag, that is so nice, we have some traditional Swedish candy for you to eat while traveling.
That looks lovely.
How big it is, though? It's actually very good. It's minty taste. So I'm just going to put it down here. So we will begin the signing, and the line is already on. I know who is first. You've been here a long while, so
I've been here a long while.
yeah, I'll just put this away for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.